Welcome to the Rehumanization Station. I'm your collaborator, Christopher Jones, aka Dr. X, and this podcast is an extension to my Flippin and Vibing brand, where vibers seek to transform narratives in society, education, and today's sport. So today is our Isball Life series, where we have our Enrichment viber named Ian Hewitt with us today. Ian, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, good.
Good. Thank you for coming. Ian, I'll give Ian's bio real quickly, but Ian Hewitt, husband, father from Durham, England. For his career, he is a coach and manager, specifically coaching the Team Durham University men's ones basketball team, which he coached me with, and we coached together. He's also the strategic manager of sport and enrichment at Bede Sixth Form College. Now, for my international audience, I know because I'm American, but we talk about sixth form, right? Sixth form is 16, 18-year-olds?
Yeah, 16 to 18-year-olds. So we finish kind of your version of high school at 16, and you can either move into apprenticeships, you can go straight into work, or you can choose to follow your academic study program, and you can either study vocational or A-level programs. So, so it's 16 to 18, and that's our sixth form here in England, yeah.
Right. Okay, because, for us, it depends on what state, but for Texas, it's 14, 18 is usually high school, and then you have university for 4 years. But here, university is typically 3 years, right?
Yeah. So, it's 3 years, isn't it? And then look to do your master's in the fourth.
Right.
So you kind of finish your study program about 21. So I think it works about the same age-ish.
Right. So sixth form college, right?
Yeah.
Now, this is the part of the show where we just vibe and allow listeners to get an idea of your background and your personal interests. So for our audience, tell us a bit about yourself.
So I'm from Brandon, a small village in England. Moved to Meadowfield quite early on. The kind of mining villages or former mining villages, to give you an idea, small population, kind of fairly high poverty areas, but great little villages to grow up in. Brought up by a single mum. She did a great job, I thought.
Oh, your mom seems lovely. I met her at the wedding.
She's definitely been influential in my life. Just being a super friendly person, super nice person throughout her life. Started playing basketball quite early on. Started playing basketball when I was around 14. I know that's not early for people in the States, but here it was a little bit different. Started playing at school because of my PE teacher, Mr. Hopper. Then went to a sixth form college, so it was called East Durham. It was one of the first national basketball academies in the country at the time. I got in. I wasn't in and around that team at the time. I was probably out of the 40 first years that came. I was probably 40th in terms of ability level. Right. It was a high standard basketball academy, really really strong. There was kind of that and Ealing at the time that was strong. And we had Scottish internationals, Welsh internationals, but at that time it was under 21, so we had guys that were playing in the BBL for the Eagles at the same time. There was Keith Dolby, who was playing for Derby in the BBL within that college.
Wait, I have a question. Let's bring it back.
Yeah.
You started basketball at 14? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
14?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
How, like...
Yeah, so we didn't have anything formal. It's hard to explain where Brandon is, but it's in County Durham, and there was no basketball in and around there at that time.
Okay.
Also, my stepdad was there, but he wasn't particularly in my life as someone supportive and sending me different places. So what happened was there was a fund that funded outdoor basketball courts. So our local park, the tennis court, got turned into a basketball court, and it was called Gladiator Units. So you had a basketball. So I was like, oh, that's great. I just need a ball. I can go and play and try and learn the sport. So we did that. Then there was around about 5 of us that really loved that. Would be there all summer. Every holiday, every weekend. It was an interesting place because there was drug dealers there as well. I remember one day they had air rifles shooting at us and things like that. It was always fun at a Brandon basketball court. But we loved it, and there was kind of me, Skinny, Stars, everybody that kind of were local and learned to play the sport, and then all of us moved on to East Durham Basketball Academy. But at that time there wasn't anything else, and then the only kind of level of basketball I played was school, which was really low level. So when I went to the basketball academy, I was like, oh, geez, right, okay, this is a big step, because they were good players. A lot went on to play professional and play in college in the States and things like that. So, started playing late for you guys, early for us, yeah.
Okay, wow, man. 14 is like who played it for? I think it's like Akeem Olajuwon actually started late too.
Yeah, very similar. Very similar.
Okay, in terms of like the work that you do, I know I mentioned Team Durham and Bede Sixth Form College, but what about before that? Because I know before Team Durham, you were with Newcastle.
Yeah.
What was your coaching like trajectory?
Coaching, yeah, it was a bit of a strange one. I'd started coaching quite early at 18. I was still in the basketball academy at the time, and I was seeing a girl that was at Durham University, and so she was part of the Bucks team there. Okay. And she was like, "Oh, we haven't got a coach. Do you want to give coaching a go?" I was like, "Yeah, all right then." So I started coaching the women's basketball team quite early on, and it kind of just moved alongside there. And it's just probably worth saying, like in the UK, trying to be a basketball coach solely is just impossible. Like there's a handful of jobs. So throughout that time, I would be working full time and coaching on the nights and weekends. So it tended to work well. But I started Durham University. Then I moved on to the men's program, Durham University. Then after working for some time, I decided to try to go into a degree. So I got a foundation degree and started that at Durham University. So I was kind of player coach at that time. Right. So we moved from kind of quite fast from Bucks Division 3, I think it was, to Bucks Prem. And that was a big part because of our partnership with the Wildcats and Dave Eldigan, who kind of run that program, who you know. And Mark came in, Paul Eldigan came in, right, then Mike Davies came in. And then we kind of had we just had good luck with trials. So at that time, you could run a Bucks trials and you'd be like, oh, this is Andrea Consolati, he played B2 in Italy, and there's Anthony Trigger, he's 6'8" from Wales. It doesn't happen anymore, but at that time it would it would happen. You'd get absolute gems through the door. So we moved through the leagues quite fast. We had a really strong team. And then we start bringing in Americans. So we brought in an American called Scott Morton, who ended up playing pro in Luxembourg after. He was an excellent player. So we just had strong squads alongside our National League squad. So Dave was building the National League squad and building the National League program and working them through the divisions. I'd kind of got to the Bucks Prem. We'd got to the final 8 at that time, and we got promoted to the Prem. Then it was a little bit of an awkward thing when Dave wanted to also do the Bucks program because it kind of made sense. I didn't see it at that time. But at that time, it did make sense that we had the head coach running both programs. And they offered us an assistant job. I didn't want to assist, but with Dave moving from Newcastle, that opened up the Newcastle job. So I took the director of basketball job with Newcastle. They were Bucks Division 1 at the time. They didn't have a National League program. And I just kind of put everything into that. So developed marketing programs around that. One of the things Dave did teach was the 3 Ps. So it was philosophy, program, personnel. If you're going to be successful in building a program, those are the things you need. So I used that. That was great advice. Built that program with a couple of undergrads. We had Chuck Duru, Jack Beresford, George Beard. We're like, right, Chuck Duru, who's now makes a lot more money than me. He kind of put a business proposal with us, presented to the university, and they bought into a National League program. So we went National League Division 4, 3, 2, 1, and then came back down in my final year, got relegated. So I was kind of director of basketball there, and we got into the Bucks Prem. We ran a really successful women's program when I brought Mark Eldigan in. And I really just enjoyed building programs. I felt like I was quite strong in it, and one of the things I was doing alongside that role was teaching. So it kind of went quite well with the coaching side of it, and I kind of went, right, well, okay, I'll build a teaching career alongside it and see how that goes. So I work in FE in that 16 to 18 bracket, and I was a sports lecturer, then kind of built up, and we run basketball. So I set up a basketball academy at Hartlepool Sixth Form, and I went, quite enjoy building academies. So they put us in charge of their academies at Hartlepool, alongside my teaching. So I'll be teaching sometime and then managing their academy programs. Then I got offered a job at Bede Sixth Form College, which was to run their Institute of Sport and Education. So that was very much just academies at the time, teaching alongside it. And then I've developed into a kind of senior manager at the sixth form, running our academic sport programs and public services programs. I oversee the academies. I've got an academy manager now. And then what happened whilst that was happening, I had kids. And coaching National League on a weekend was just pretty much impossible. So I probably should say I had daughters in my first National League programme, so I've been ejected from games and my daughters have been there and things like that. Probably not my finest moments, but there's a high probability that if the girls were there any amount of games I might have been ejected. So they were there and very much part of the crowd when we were Division 1 and stuff like that. So I was actually parenting. We were playing out Benfield at the time, running the programme, so making sure the match officials were there, the venue was ready, all that sort of stuff. Newcastle wasn't where it is now in terms of like the full facility. So built that up, had my two daughters, but was a single dad, so I'd have them on the weekends. So it worked that I could work a lot on the nights, and it kind of suited my lifestyle at the time. Then I met my now wife, Kat, and we had two sons. Leo came along, and I was coaching Division 1 at the time, and probably Dan Watts, who's another really excellent coach from Nottingham, he kind of said the juice isn't worth the squeeze a lot with National League basketball and coaching, because I was working full time, coaching Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then when you're a Newcastle team, when you played Durham BBL,
right.
Every fixture is south, isn't it?
Right.
So it would be like I would be driving a bus on the weekends and getting back, and I would then have to start my full-time job. It just wasn't feasible for me, my wife or my kid at the time. So took that away, and Durham offered us a Bucks job with a view to go BBL.
I know it's that, but that's pretty tough.
Yeah.
But I know he braced through this part. But you said you went from level 4, Division 4, 3, 2, and 1. For our listeners, like that basically means you have to win the league. So he's won 4 differently. So it's very impressive. It's a very prestigious coach. I tell people this all the time. You're probably the best coach I've ever had. Overall, I'd say you're the best coach I've ever had. That's what I tell everybody. If you do want to come to Durham University, if you're coaching still, which you probably will be, I would definitely encourage you to come play for Ian, because I've had many coaches, and I think Ian, you've probably made my game better than most other coaches have, improved my game a lot more. I'd say that for sure. I'd argue that to anybody. But he's an amazing coach. Just thought I'd say that too. And also amazing father. So like you said, you don't have a starting 5 yet, but you're very close.
I'm done. I'm done.
It's done.
We'll play with 4, and none of them can play basketball, so we wouldn't be very good.
But thank you for sharing some of your story. And I know you mentioned texts and stuff like that. I know you've calmed down a bit, growing.
Yeah.
I know. I was at the wedding, and there's a lot of stories about how you were previously. About
Mark had a good speech, didn't he? Yeah.
So how did you kind of overcome some of that, and how have you been able to, just basically come together with your thoughts and your emotions, and how you've been able to kind of bring that down a bit? And I know we've talked about this before. Yeah. But you want to explain a bit how you've done that?
It's been a challenge, I'd say. Yeah, I was just really angry growing up for various reasons. So there was a lot of stored up anger, and a lot of things around. I think whenever it's things like that, you're probably looking at insecurity, lacking confidence, lacking a little bit of identity, things like that. So you're trying to realize who you are. You're trying to think about. You're very much in your own thoughts. When you're an angry person, you're in your own thoughts. You kind of question yourself all the time. You're questioning other people. They're very distrustful. And I just think moving from the first thing I did that worked was surrounding myself with really good people. So like at the wedding, for example, I kind of was blown away. Like when I look around the room and I'm like, look at all these good people that I'm surrounded by. I think at least I've done one thing right, and that's surround myself with good people that you can learn from. and that you trust. So I think that was a big one for me. I think having kids, being in an educational setting, you know, once you kind of complete my degree, I became a teacher. Kind of, you learn more about emotional control, you learn more about trauma-informed approaches, and you kind of look at yourself and you go, okay, well, yeah, actually, I just needed this, and this. And I think having kids was the big one for me. I think that probably led to us just calming down a lot. And I think probably seeing one of my best friends, Mark, who's done an excellent job at Newcastle. I coached with him a lot of years. I coached with you, like learning from you, and I just found that the players respond a lot better to that. I respond a lot better to that, and it really wasn't benefiting me, my players, or anyone like that getting angry all the time.
Right.
So I think I just tried to learn from other people, kind of calm down because of what my life was, and I was happy in my life, and my life was really good. And I go home, I've got beautiful kids, I've got dogs, I've got jobs, and I've got security and things like that. And I think sometimes all of that was playing a part. I think sometimes as a coach and as a player and as a student, you've got that emotional backpack, and people don't see that, do they?
Right.
And actually, why is a player having a bad day? Why is, when it comes to performance, you got to think about all those things before you can even coach, play, be a student. It's and I think just accepting and understanding all that and learning more about that as you got older, you kind of just learn to work through those things, I think.
Right. I mean, thank you for sharing that, because I think that's important. You mentioned about power, confidence, and insecurity, because a lot of us, we don't really know our own insecurities and how that impacts other people, ourselves and other people, right? So, kudos to you for doing that, because that's one of the main challenges, right? Is trying to understand ourselves.
Yeah,
right?
It's a hard one. I've got enough self-awareness to get through certain parts of it. Probably lack a little. I'm still lacking self-awareness to make us a lot more likable. But I think it's, if you don't get a handle of that, especially because we do have an epidemic with young men being angry in fatherless households, things like that. I think it makes such a difference to a young boy's life. If you don't have a father role model in your life, trying to work your way through and navigate through is just very difficult, and you've just got an anger, and it's just there because you're questioning everything. And I think that's something that if young males can get a grip of quite early, it helps them. And some people aren't dispositioned to be angry, some people are, but I think if they can get a grip of that, it helps.
Okay, so with that, like, what could you think of anybody that's been the most influential to you in your life?
Yeah, I think like throughout my life, I think I've had it's always been coaches, which has probably made us want to coach. But I had a coach called Bob Martin, so played in NIA. He was from the US, and he coached us at the East Durham Basketball Academy. Okay. And he was like, I've never met anyone like him. So he's the most intense American guy I've ever met in my life. And he would be running at 5 a.m. He'd train in the morning because there were two groups. 9 a.m. train with the group, and he was like 55. Then he trained with the second group 3 till 5. And he just did not miss. And he had a pro career in France and in the BBL back in the day and stuff like that. So he just taught you that work ethic and that mindset as well. Like, He was doing constraint-led approach games before people were doing constraint-led approach games, and there was scientific stuff around. So I can remember one practice, because I wasn't as good as the other players in the academy, so I'd get in and I'd move the ball just to make sure I wasn't upsetting any of my teammates or getting involved. And he was like, "God damn it, Ian Hewitt, you got to shoot the ball." And he'd be like, right, the next all practice, you've got to shoot the ball. And I had to have a practice where everybody had to find me, and I had to shoot the ball every single practice, like every single time I could find an opening. And I was like, oh God, and it felt, but it made you think about things from like, well, actually, you've just got to do that, and you've got to see it from that way. And so he kind of had a big influence on kind of hard work ethic, kind of solving problems and that. And then probably Dave Aldigan was a big influence as well. So I was around Dave and Paul and Mark, who's his two sons, a lot growing up. So the way it started was quite bad. He'd taken over a club called Belmont, and like it was a local league Division 2 club. And he came in and said it was going to be a BBL club. Well, I was like, "What are you talking about? This guy's losing his mind." And and I'd felt like we were kind of kicked out of the club and stuff like that. So it started on rocky kind of grounds. But then Mark had approached us quite early on. I wasn't friends with him at the time. He was like, "Look, just like let all that go, come and play." And then we played together most of our young lives. And I think just being around them, Dave Aldican was like, he's a different character, isn't he? He's like, he's so intelligent, but he's like, you know, just who he is very different. But I learned the X's and O's, like how to think a little bit differently. And I think the biggest thing I learned from Dave was like what to ignore and what he'd pay attention to. I'll be like, how's he not paying attention to that? And he's just not interested whatsoever. And then because he got the bigger picture, you kind of see that. And so Dave was probably Dave was a big influence as well.
Okay, nice. And what about what activities bring you peace, love, and happiness? You'd say.
Oh, yeah. Definitely, I used to love playing basketball. You were talking about it today as well. I don't know if it brought me peace, but I used to enjoy doing it. You know, I used to love doing it, and you get a lot of stuff out there. You know, playing within a team and things like that. I think. At the minute, I'm gaming. That's a bit different, but I quite enjoy going and gaming, watching it. Yeah, I love movies, things like that. Working out, I don't get to do much anymore. As a dad of 4 with two dogs and 2 jobs, but that type of thing. But like time I spend with my wife and family, they're the big things that kind of keep me calm. My wife keeps me calm. She's probably, to be honest, like since I've met Kat, she's been a huge influence in me calming down.
That's good.
Which, if you've met Kat, you probably wouldn't get why, because she's as fiery as me. But she's definitely calmed us down. But she's super stable. So just having that stability around you and that person that really understands you and gets you, so then you don't have to be anything different other than yourself.
Right.
But then you're comfortable enough that you can point out each other's flaws and go, right, well. Not that she has any flaws, but you know, like we can point out my flaws and talk about how I can improve.
All right, okay, I got you. And then, okay, so I was going to ask you about challenging moments for you. I mean, we talked about, I guess, the whole self-awareness and stuff, but what are some of the most challenging moments for you in sport, and how have you navigated them?
In sport, I'd say probably the hardest time I had was when I was director of basketball. I was a head coach of Newcastle, and we'd went kind of Division 4, won the National Shield, won Division 3, lost out on the playoffs. We'd came runners up in Division 2, but was national at the time and won the Patrons Cup. Got promoted to Division 1, and in the first year of our Division 1 program, kept in. And in the second year, we started really well. We started 4 and 5, which was good at that time. It was, you know, for a small program, we were doing well. So I felt quite confident that we were going to stay in the league. And then we lost a player called David Hansen, who was a very strong player at the time, and just things crumbled from there. I think at that time, which is why I stepped away from Newcastle. You know, my wife had just had a baby. We had a young son in the house, and then I was trying to keep this team, who was who lacked a little bit of talent and depth, to stay in that league. But actually, I feel like if I'd have had that time again now, I would have kept that team in the league. Like the most embarrassing thing is that it had Tosan in there. So Tosan Evbanwan, who's playing in the NBA, like I managed to get a team relegated with an NBA player. I mean, he was 18 at the time, but he you know, and he came. So that's probably the thing. But I think at the time I was, you know, I found it really challenging, and I'd spiraled. I'd kind of not worked well with the players, and I'd kind of left all my values behind, and kind of was just focused on not getting relegated, rather than just like, how can I help these people? How can I make it a positive experience? Right. And I, you know, that was probably the in sport, that's probably the one time where I've like, I didn't do good enough there. I could have kept them in the league.
Okay, and what about in terms of your predominant role, like your sport development role, in terms of what is some of the most challenging moments in that role, and how do you navigate them? For our listeners who are leaders and managers, what type of advice would you give them? Right.
I think when I started the Bede Sixth Form job, I think what I've learned since starting that role is just how to manage change a lot better, and how there was a lot of things that needed changing when I came in, and I was too direct and too forceful with the way that I did it, and I didn't bring the people along with us. I actually just went, you're either on or you're off. And I think I could have done that in a better way. But to give you a picture, it was the Institute of Sport and Education at the time had about 30, 40 students on it. It was tiny. It was a men's football team, very low level.
So we're talking about the just managing and what you've learned in terms of people and working with people, and how not being forceful.
Yeah, and I think one of the things when I reflect back on it, I was not worried about whether I was making or breaking relationships. I was like, this is what we need to do to get this job done.
Okay.
You're either on board or you're not on board. And I think reflecting back on it, I just need to bring the people along with us. I could have done that in a lot better of a way that would have got that going, I think.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. Now we'll get more into your work and how you flip the script to traditional narratives within it. I've had a chance to view some of your work, and you coached me at Durham, like I mentioned before. And much of your work is around sport and enrichment to enhancing the well-being, education, and sport performance of young people, right? So for our Vibe audience and us too, let's attempt to flip the young people in sports script, shall we? All right. So Ian, you want to start off with, in terms of, what are your perceptions of traditional normative narratives of work in the work that you do?
I think it's kind of what we discussed earlier around, being a Durham University student and being a local Durham University student.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very different experience from coming outside of Durham and being a university student. I think it's a very different dynamic. And then I had the same at the basketball academy, at East Durham. It was kind of a national basketball academy, and I was very much a local there. So wherever I've been, I am the local, but I've been referred to as the local. So I think that's the interesting one. I think that I've seen kind of the class structure.
Right.
I know a lot of what you talk is the race structure, and looking at it from a race lens, and everything I look at is from a class and poverty lens, just because that's what I've seen and what I'm used to. But I think one of the first things that happened to us at East Durham was, and we ended up having a team essentially called the Locals. Like, there was a group of us called the Locals, and there's even a leaflet where we're like doing this because it was elf, right?
Okay.
But yeah, I think it was like a second practice, and a guy tried to Euro step around us when I was trying to take a charge, rolled his ankle on mine, and he was like, the effing local, and it's like, I was like, but what's it mean? So
and how does that make you feel? Because you're a Durham University student, you're from here, the area.
Yeah.
But people know Durham University is typically, people are not from the Northeast, or students are not from the Northeast, is maybe less than 20%. It's like maybe 15% now nowadays. Probably less than back then.
Yeah.
But how does that make you feel in terms of populating Durham University?
An outcast, very much. Like that. I think it was at Durham University. It was my second day. So that foundation degree was in Stockton,
Right.
and it was quite comfortable at Stockton. I was fine. It felt a little bit different, but once I'd moved to main campus doing sport, I think it was again my second or third lesson. We were waiting outside of a lecture theatre, and it was two girls talking, and they were like, "Oh, these locals, da da da. Just got to watch out for the locals. Don't go out on a Saturday, things like that." And they were like, "Oh, where are you from?" And I'm like, "I'm from Durham." I am a local. And it was there was definitely that division. And I think some of that division was probably caused by me when you look back at it, because I would be like, your walls would go up. But yeah, definitely felt like a bit of a outcast in my own university, in my own city, which was strange. And obviously that then leads to certain behaviours, doesn't it, in terms of like that defensiveness. And it, like I was talking about with East Durham, like you then build your own identity to feel confident in your own circle. So we were like, locals, So yeah, and pretty much throughout my Durham kind of study program, I was surrounded by all my friends in Durham, and as Mark Elderkin, Paul Elderkin, Mike Davies were all included. It was just we stuck around together,
Right.
and it probably became some of it with us, and then also having those kind of local projection stereotypes put on you, kind of made you kind of step back as well.
Okay, what made you? Because I know you mentioned about identity. Sometimes people would assimilate in order to survive. So assimilate meaning basically remove their own cultural habits, upbringing, and then just transform into the dominant culture. What made you not do that? Is it because of your peer support, or the people you were around were from here as well?
Maybe, yeah. It's a bit fight or flight, isn't it? It's and then probably my trait is to fight. So like I would put the walls up, and I would essentially surround myself with people, like-minded people, and I'll go, right, this is us, rather than trying to be someone that I'm not.
Right.
So if anything, I would be more local, and more. I'd make my accent a little bit stronger and things like that.
Right.
So I think it was that fight or flight mode, wasn't it?
Okay. And we talk about like the Northeast, right? So how do you? I was going to ask you, Krish, what was a particular moment that kind of was a turning point for you in your life and the work that you do?
I think I'm not sure on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Do you mean like what was a turning point for when I started letting that go, or do you mean what?
Yeah. So in terms of how you were able to, like you said, find your identity. I guess there's two parts, because you have the part when you're a university student, and also the part where you're more in your professional career.
Yeah.
Right. So what could have been a turning point for you in terms of like what experience did you have that was like, okay, I need to move this way now for this.
Well, I think
there's probably plenty, but yeah.
Within Bede Sixth Form, it's not it's not an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Like FE is very much, it's dominated by people from that area. It's not an issue. Durham University is very different. So obviously, I'm the head basketball coach at Durham University for the men's. That is, you'll know yourself. If I go to, let's say a conference with all the heads of sport and a lot of the league coaches, they might all sound very similar and have very similar backgrounds and have very similar setups. It's rare that you'll see people like me and you that are there, as a head of sport, as a director of sport at a university setting. So I think there's definitely barriers within higher education, especially again if you speak in a certain way and you have a certain accent. I think from further education, it's Northeast dominated. Like, you don't earn enough money to move. It's not prestigious enough to move, so you very much stay within your area generally. So it's never really been an identity issue working in further education. Higher education, there's definitely a commonality, and it's like anyone, isn't it? It's like you will surround yourself by people that you feel comfortable with, and if there's certain people in certain that they will bring in people that do that, but also within the university education, like the university side of things, the way books is set up, it's kind of already leading towards certain sports. So rowing's a big one, for example. No one rows in state schools, right?
Yeah.
Only private people, only private schools row. Lacrosse, there's nobody in my area playing lacrosse. There's nobody, rugby's a little bit different, but it's very similar. So then you'll get people in those positions, rugby coaches, rowing coaches, hockey coaches, things like that, that then progress up the ladder because they're surrounding themselves with like-minded people and from similar backgrounds. Right. So I think the university's kind of setup is already system orientated, I'd say. Okay. But obviously you know it way better than me. But I think that there is already a hierarchy there, so you just kind of I quite enjoy the coaching side of it. Come in, come out.
All right. So then, how do you use your sixth form to get young people ready for that next stage?
A lot of what we do is we try to remove finance as a barrier. So especially with basketball, it's become almost to play basketball in this area now, you've got to be middle class.
Really?
Yeah, because if you think about for clubs, it's not solely clubs' fault. But if you think about a club, you've got the first thing you've got to do is hire a court. How much is a court? Let's say £80 an hour. So there's for that hour you've got already an outlay of £80. Now, if you want to be paid as a coach, let's say you put £30 on there, there's £110 that needs to be made just in that one session. So generally now, basketball clubs will be direct debit subscriptions. You have to pay a lot of money, and then again, how do you get there? You need to get someone to drop you off.
Right.
So it's very much basketball, especially is kind of a middle class sport. Whereas you say football, or you guys know it's soccer.
Right.
There's a football pitch everywhere. Like it's different. You don't have to hire a grass pitch. Like all that sort of stuff. So basketball's a kind of middle class sport. So what I've tried to make sure that I do in everything that I do is remove finance as a barrier. So we'll run performance camps, remove finance as a barrier. We'll at Durham University, I'll invite local kids in, so that if they're a talented under 16s player, like Charlie McKenna's an example, Killian's an example, both them went to the States. Jaden Wise Malcolm, who's currently at Bede Sixth Form, he's came in and he's dipped in and out of practice just so they get that experience of practicing against NCAA players and things like that. So I'll just try and remove finance as a barrier. Okay.
And in terms of, so is that, how would you describe your work, what you do flipping the script? So so you're arguing that the script itself is hierarchical and very economically unstable in terms of like unfair, I'd say.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It is unfair, yeah.
Okay.
Like if you look at, and I don't get into the government of basketball.
Right.
But if you look at basketball within the UK, all the problems lead back to money. And I think wherever we can come as a basketball community and kind of remove those barriers and give people chances and opportunities, because it can lead to PhDs, it can lead to professional careers, it can lead like to destinations and avenues that they didn't think was possible. Right. So wherever possible, we're trying to remove finance as a barrier, poverty as a barrier, and I don't think the systems are purposely built that way. I just think a sports centre would need to make money. Right. There's nothing kind of government led that then puts that in there. Whereas if you look at Finland, all of their sports facilities as such are government funded, all of them. So that removes that as a barrier. So it's where you put your money in. Whereas if you then do get political, it's like, right, there's a lot of money going into rowing, money going into sailing. How many kids are sailing? And
what types of kids are sailing? Okay.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
So I think there is a hierarchy built in to get gold medals. Like a lot of it is from top down. So they're looking at Olympics. Where can we get medals? Cycling, sailing, shooting, rowing, all these different things. Rather than looking at the participation base and looking at physical activity, well-being, how many people are accessing this. Putting loads of money into sailing isn't impacting anybody's life. If you were to put a lot of money into basketball, I think it would impact a lot of people's life. So a lot of money gets put into football, and you'll see people like actively like changing their lives and having opportunities because of football. So you really want to do that in as many sports as possible, I think.
Right. And in terms of, because we're in the Northeast here, would you say there's a certain divide, or just what do you think are the differences in terms of the north and the south in terms of resources for sport? Or does it depend on the sport?
It does, yeah. It definitely depends on the sport. It definitely depends on the sport. I think there's less and less of a divide now between the north and south, and the north's huge. So you're talking like Birmingham up, right? Really high poverty levels, but then if you look down south, it's becoming the same. It really is. I think there used to be a big north-south divide just in general, But I think it's becoming almost like because of all the problems that we're facing now as a country.
Right.
It really is merging into one.
Okay, I was going to ask that.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? Okay, I got you. I mean, okay, that makes sense. So, all right. How many? So we can get more into detail. Just how many young people do you actually work with?
Yeah, we've got, so in my academic department, we've got around about 250 sports students.
Okay.
We've got another around about 50 to 60 in our uniform services courses. So I manage the academic programs for them. Within our Institute of Sport and Education, we've got nearly 200 athletes. So it's for a small sixth form, like we're a sixth form of 830 people. Mm-hmm. So it's a big cohort of those. And we'll work across multiple sports, and we'll make sure that, I think the other thing worth mentioning is much more of our investment goes into female sport. Mm-hmm. So that's a big side of it as well, and especially promoting female coaches and things like that. So we try to make sure that we kind of overcome it that way as well.
Mm-hmm. And how do you think the young people are responding to the program?
Well, you're seeing a lot of success. So you're seeing some of our women's footballers go overseas, play at NCAA for women's football. We saw a lot of tennis players last year. 3 tennis players move into NCAA. You've seen students like Charlie McKenna, who came to Bede, then went to Charnwood College, and then moved on to the States. And again, it's not just about the States, but it's the fact that they're getting free education, which you can't get in the UK.
Right.
So I think like other examples are just things like we had a young men's footballer at Bede, and he got in a brilliant apprenticeship with Bank of Canada, or Canada Bank. And a lot of the skills he learns, and a lot of the employability skills, the team, the leadership, he drove that into interviews and things like that. So I think sport gives people a lot more than just physical activity, well-being, mental well-being. It's also those transferable skills for employability and moving on to your next step. So I think it's really impacting a lot of people positively.
Okay. Well, this is one of my last questions, and I'll flip it back though, because that's the results. But how are they coming in? How are the young people coming in terms of well-being? Like what type of feeling do you get from them, or do they need to?
This is a controversial one.
At least from what you've experienced so far.
I think
generations are different, but
yeah, what you don't want to do is label a full kind of cohort of year groups as this is what they're lacking or this is what they're strong in, because you'll get they're all different, and they've all had different backgrounds. I think the barriers that we face more and more in education is there now seems to be a kind of break in the social contract of trusting the teachers, trusting the coaches, trusting that they know what they're doing. If there's an issue, coming to that coach, coming to that teacher and supporting that teacher, and rather than flipping it back on the teacher as if they're the problem and the child is perfect, right? So there's a big break in that social contract now, I think. We're seeing more and more holidays through term time, like and less of a value on education, and then almost you're just facing an uphill battle of parental support. That and being able to hold people accountable is really difficult now.
Yes,
we're seeing a lack of people going into the teaching profession. Whereas when I moved into teaching, trying to get a job in sport was really difficult. Now, if I was to start again, I would get a job immediately, I'd feel, because there's less applicants, there's less people want to move into that career, and that's the kind of avenue we're moving down at the minute. That's the biggest part, I think, that break in social contract.
Okay.
And if you don't, you're almost like customer service now.
No, I hear you now. Okay, so basically what you're saying is that the traditional script was more about this is how you need to do things. It's more about that social contract where the social contract was less. There's less agency in that, and you had to just do what you were told, kind of, right?
Yeah. So there's problems on both sides of extremes, isn't there?
Yeah.
So it's like, there's people that were in authority that abuse authority, which then leads to that mistrust. But fundamentally, if you don't have teachers, if you don't have people doing that role, and you don't have trust in those teachers, then what's next?
Right.
So I think that's the difficult battle that we have at the moment, and that's the worrying thing for me. It's that trust in those teachers, but like you said, the other side of that is that top-down approach, authority, and it's been abused a lot of times in all sorts of different institutions.
Okay.
But you still need those institutions.
Yes, okay, I got you. So you need. So I guess we try our best to do more of like a vertical. I'm not saying vertical, horizontal.
Yeah.
Approach. But people have to make executive decisions, right? Yeah. Because of how things are done. Yeah, that is very challenging. But it sounds like you're finding the balance.
Yeah.
We're trying to. We're attempting to. It's a process, right? That's why everything is. So in regards to that, like where do you see like the work that you do? So with coaching and being a lecturer before now being a manager, director, how do you see yourself leaving like a lasting legacy and like the stuff that you do?
I think I've just tried to help as many people as I can help and have their experience of sport as positive as possible, and then provide them with as many tools as I can that they can move on and have a good life. I think that's what I try to do on a daily basis, and all the programs that I've set up, I feel like a lot of people have got jobs out of it. So I've almost created a mini economy where like people are getting leadership jobs, manager jobs, coaches jobs, teaching jobs. I feel like the students are surrounded by really good people because these people that are teachers, coaches are outstanding at their jobs. So the students get a great experience, and hopefully that they become those leaders. And then it's a positive cycle, isn't it?
Right. Okay.
So just try to create a positive cycle where people are getting good experiences, improve, learn, and have better lives.
Okay, hence our enrichment vibe, yeah, for sure. Okay, now, thank you for that. Now we're in the concluding part of the show, where you're going to offer us insight around Is Ball life. First, I want to ask, if you could reflect on your journey thus far, what do you know now that you wish you knew before?
You don't get paid a lot of money in sport. No, I'd say what that's a deep question. I'd say, what do I know now that I don't know then? I'd say it was more about, I would say, personal relationships. Okay. I would say everything that you should do should be built around helping and supporting people that want to be helped and supported. And I think if you get that right, I think everything else falls into place. You'll make mistakes, you'll do wrong things, but I think generally if you're trying to help people and look after people and improve their lives a little bit, then I think everything else kind of falls in place. So probably just focus on building good personal relationships and then working from there.
Okay, sounds good. All right, thank you for that. Now, so we talked a lot around your upbringing, coming from Brandon. It's Brandon, so it's a village. How far is it from Durham?
It's like 15
the university.
15-minute drive.
15-minute drive. Okay,
yeah.
Okay. But it's all part of County Durham.
Yeah, all
right?
part of County Durham.
Okay, we talked about that. Talked about you being a husband, a father. Not make too many mistakes, but doing great with your kids. Talked about coaching. Your experience at Durham University, your experience with being a manager, and how you're navigating that as well, and all your championships, what you've done. You've done a lot, and I'm pretty sure you're going to have so much more that you're going to do in your life. But with all that being said, is ball life?
No.
No.
But it's a big part of life. Ball made my life. Yeah. Okay. Without basketball, I don't know where I'd be. Because of the friendships that it's given me, the people I've been surrounded by, the coaches that I've had, it's definitely kept us on the straight and narrow-ish. Whilst I've had a few veers from that, it's definitely, and it gave me so many tools that I now take into management, leadership, and in my current role. So without basketball, it definitely wouldn't be the person I am.
Okay.
But if you took, and I don't play basketball anymore, I might not coach for much longer. If you take that away from us, I've got my wife and my kids and things like that. So no, but I definitely think without basketball, life would have been a lot harder. So it's given me loads.
Could you imagine life without it at all?
No,
because it's difficult, isn't it?
yeah, no.
Okay.
Yeah, obviously, like basketball at the minute is my second job, and I do it because I love it. I don't need the money now. I definitely don't. I definitely could do with the time. I do it because I enjoy it. So yeah, couldn't imagine without it.
Yeah, cool. All right. I said everything. How you feeling?
Yeah, good.
Good. Yeah. Is there any social media handles that people can follow you on? I know you're on LinkedIn, right?
I'm on LinkedIn. Yeah, that's it.
That's it. I mean, LinkedIn.
I'm
is
not a social guy.
okay.
I don't promote what I do really.
I mean, it's good. It's good to keep it low key.
Yeah, keep it. Yeah.
Okay.
After this, obviously, my life's going to change, so I'll just have to handle that battle as it comes.
We hope the Viber audience is growing. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
So it's been good.
It's going to grow even more now.
But thank you. Yeah, thank you for coming. You did great. Thank you for coming. I really appreciate you being here. And yeah, like I said, thank you I've learned a lot from you as well. I appreciate you as a person, as a human being.
You too.
But yeah, we'll continue to hopefully get a Bucks championship soon. Yeah,
soon.
I'll be there with you.
One day.
All right, thank you.
All right, thanks.
Just some reflections. Thank you, Ian, for joining the Rehumanization Station. It's amazing, like listening to different people's stories. Like I said, Ian was played a fundamental part of my growth as a basketball player. And I think not just a basketball player, but as a human being, he's an amazing person. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Again, like we try to spotlight people who are just doing amazing work and who have earned attention, right? And Ian's going to be amazing. He's going to do great things. He's only just starting. And the episode just got me thinking about this idea of identity, understanding our own insecurities, and understanding about self-awareness, and how when we understand those things, we're able to move in various and more inclusive ways, I'd say. And yeah, it was just cool, and I'm glad to be back. I took a bit of a break, but we're back now. About to have a couple of episodes coming up. And yeah, is ball life? Sometimes yes and no, maybe so, but Rehumanization Station, we're back. I'm happy to say that finding a bit more balance in this new lifestyle that my fiance and I have, and it's been really good. So tune in for the next episode. But thank you, Viber audience.